All right, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something I think's been on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
How does social media affect our brains?
Yeah. It's a big one.
It is a big one. And, you hear all this stuff, all this buzz about, social media, this social media that
Right.
is it good for you? Is it bad for you?
Right.
But what does the science actually say?
Yeah.
So we've got a whole stack of research studies and expert analyses,
Lots of stuff to dig into.
and we are going to pull out the most fascinating bits for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people because
Yeah.
social media is so integrated into our lives. Now it's kind of hard to remember what life was like before it.
Yeah.
So understanding how it impacts us both positively and negatively
Yeah.
is absolutely crucial, I think.
So let's start with something I think we can all relate to.
Okay.
Our attention span.
Yeah.
There's a study in Nature Communications that found a link between heavy social media use and shorter attention spans.
It's almost like our brains are being trained like puppies.
Okay.
Like when you give a puppy a treat for every little thing, it starts expecting that reward constantly, right?
Right.
So it's the thing with those social media notifications.
Yeah.
The likes and comments, they become like those treats for our brains. They just pull us back in, you know?
Totally.
And that makes it so much harder to focus on the things that don't give us that instant gratification.
So is that where this whole continuous partial attention thing comes in?
Exactly. Our brains are just always scanning,
Mm.
always looking for that next notification, that next bit of exciting news, or, that next funny meme.
Right.
And it's like, we can never fully relax and dive deep into anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people probably notice. Like, think about it. Have you ever sat down to read a long article or a book
Oh, yeah.
and found yourself getting constantly distracted?
All the time.
That's probably this continuous partial attention at work.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely noticed that I cannot focus as well after I've, been on Instagram for an hour or something.
Yeah.
It's just my brain is fried.
It's overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does all this scrolling, how does that affect our memory?
Well, research from psychological science suggests that all those quick hits of information we get on social media, the tweets, the reels, the stories, all that, it can actually fragment our memory.
Whoa.
It impacts our episodic memory.
So what is episodic memory?
Episodic memory is the type of memory that lets you basically replay events in your mind.
Okay.
So it's like remembering what you had for breakfast this morning or a conversation you had with a friend.
So instead of having these full, rich memories,
Right.
you just have these little snippets.
Kinda, yeah. You might remember seeing something,
Right.
but the actual details, they get all fuzzy.
That's so interesting.
Like, think about it. You probably remember seeing a funny meme on your feed yesterday,
Uh-huh.
but do you remember the article you scrolled past right before it was about?
Probably not.
Probably not. And this is important because it can actually impact how we learn and absorb new information in the long run.
Yeah.
If we're not forming those solid memories, it's going to be harder to build on that knowledge later on.
So social media is not my best study buddy.
Well, it's something to be mindful of
Okay.
because that constant influx of information, it can make it harder to encode those details into our long-term memory.
Gotcha.
But it's not just our memories that are affected.
Mm.
Social media can also mess with our emotions.
Uh-uh.
And as it turns out, that has an impact on our cognitive abilities as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is where it gets really interesting because I
Right.
remember reading this study from the University of Pennsylvania, and they found that people who cut back on social media felt less anxious. They felt less depressed, less FOMO.
Interesting.
But, why is that?
Well, when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others on social media,
Yeah.
it triggers a stress response in our bodies. And that stress hormone, cortisol, can actually be harmful to the hippocampus.
Wait, hold on. The hippocampus, what is that?
Think of it like your brain's filing cabinet for memories.
Okay.
So basically those late-night scroll sessions fueled by social comparison,
Oh, no.
they might actually be making it harder to learn new things at work the next day.
So it's not even just about feeling bad in the moment.
Right.
It's about the long-term consequences.
Exactly, both for our mental and our cognitive health.
Wow.
And there's one more piece of this puzzle we need to look at,
Okay.
how social media impacts our ability to think critically.
Okay. So we all know social media can be like a total rabbit hole of information.
Oh, yeah.
But is it actually making us worse at thinking critically?
That's a great question, and it's something the Harvard Business Review tackled in their analysis.
Okay.
They argue that all that passive scrolling and skimming through information, it can actually hinder our ability to really think deeply and critically about what we're seeing.
So it's like watching a cooking show versus actually getting in the kitchen and cooking.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You might enjoy watching, but you're not actually learning the skill.
Right.
And when it comes to really absorbing information and forming memories, that active engagement is key.
Yeah.
If we're not actively processing and analyzing what we're seeing, it's just not going to stick with us. It's like the difference between glancing at a map versus thoroughly studying it and planning your route.
Yeah.
One will get you lost, the other will get you where you need to go.
That's a good point. So with all this talk about, social media's impact on our attention, our memory, critical thinking, are we all just doomed to have like fragmented memories and mushy brains?
Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, social media is a tool.
Yeah.
Like any tool, it can be used skillfully or carelessly.
Okay.
The key is being aware of the potential effects
Right.
and making conscious choices about how we use it.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all.
There are things we can do to have like a healthier relationship with social media.
Absolutely. And luckily, the research actually offers some really practical solutions.
Well, let's hear them. What can we do to like mitigate these negative effects and actually use social media to our advantage?
Well, the sources we looked at, they outline 5 key solutions, and I think you'll find them surprisingly doable.
Okay, hit me with number 1.
All right, number 1, setting time limits.
Okay.
And those handy apps like Screen Time or Digital Wellbeing, they can really help you track how much time you're actually spending on social media and then set boundaries for yourself.
So it's about like bringing awareness to our habits and then actually, putting some limits in place.
Exactly. It's about breaking that cycle of constantly seeking rewards. Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It gives your brain a chance to actually focus on other things that require more sustained attention and effort.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What's the next one?
Number 2, mindful use.
Okay.
So it's about being intentional with your social media time. Choose to engage with content that brings you value.
Yeah.
That teaches you something or inspires you.
So what does that look like in practice? Like, what does mindful use look like?
Well, it could mean unfollowing accounts that make you feel bad.
Okay.
It could mean setting specific times for checking social media or actively seeking out content that aligns with your goals and your interests.
So you're curating your feed based on...
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity.
Yeah.
When you engage with content intentionally, you're more likely to remember it and actually benefit from it.
I like that. Be more proactive.
Right.
What's number 3?
Number 3, prioritize in-person interactions.
Okay.
Put down the phone, step away from the screens, and go have a real-life conversation with another human being.
We can all agree that that's important, but how does that benefit our brains specifically?
Well, they're incredibly important for both our cognitive and our emotional well-being.
Okay.
Face-to-face interactions help us develop essential social skills.
Yeah.
They allow us to connect on a much deeper level, and they give our brains a break from that constant stimulation of the digital world.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly.
Okay, what about number 4?
This one might surprise you. Use social media for learning.
Oh.
There is a ton of incredible educational content out there.
Oh, yeah.
You can follow experts, watch documentaries, join groups dedicated to your interests.
So it's about being like a more active consumer.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to shift your brain from that passive consumption mode to active engagement.
Yeah.
You can take notes.
Yeah.
You can reflect on what you've learned. Try to apply it to your life.
Yeah.
It's about turning information into knowledge.
Love that. Reclaiming social media as a tool for growth.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's the final solution?
The last one is simple but essential. Take regular breaks.
Okay.
Give your brain a chance to reset and recharge by stepping away from social media for a while.
So put the phone down, go for a walk, read a book.
Exactly.
Just spend time offline.
Studies show that these periodic breaks can have a huge positive impact on our mental and cognitive health.
Oh.
They can help reduce stress, improve mood boost concentration.
Like hitting the refresh button for our brains.
Exactly.
So there you have it. 5 incredibly practical solutions to help us take control of our social media habits and protect our brains.
It's all about finding that balance,
Right.
enjoying the benefits of social media without letting it take over our lives or negatively impact our cognitive function.
Absolutely. I think what resonates with me the most is that, we're not powerless.
Right.
We have the ability to make choices about how we interact with social media. It's about understanding, the potential pitfalls, but also recognizing that we can use these platforms in ways that actually benefit us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really empowering message.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's not about, demonizing social media.
Right.
It's about understanding how to use it in a way that supports our well-being.
Yeah, it's like we're giving our listeners this like brain-boosting toolkit for the digital world.
Exactly.
So what are you going to do with it? What really stood out to you from all this research?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that social media is a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, it can be used skillfully or carelessly.
Right.
And understanding how it affects your brain gives you the power to make conscious choices about how you use it.
So one small change are
Yeah.
you going to make this week to like have a healthier relationship with social media?
That's a good question.
Oh,
I think for me,
yeah.
I'm going to try to be a little more mindful
Okay.
about the content that I'm engaging with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time just kind of scrolling mindlessly.
Uh-huh.
And I want to be more intentional about seeking out things that actually inspire me or teach me something new.
I love that. Yeah, it's like being more proactive with your social media instead of just
Yes.
letting it kind of wash over you.
Right, because otherwise it's so easy to get sucked into that negativity spiral
Totally.
or just waste hours scrolling through stuff that doesn't really matter.
And you don't even remember. Like you said, it just kind of fragments your memory.
It's like, what did I even do for the last hour?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm going to focus on quality over quantity.
I think that's a great goal. What about you, listeners? What one small change are you going to make?
Yeah.
Maybe it's setting a time limit or, like we were saying, just being more mindful about what you're actually looking at.
Or maybe taking more breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stepping away from the screen and going for a walk or reading a book.
Right, like just disconnecting.
Exactly. Give your brain a chance to recharge.
Yeah,
Because even small changes can make a big difference.
totally. So whatever change you choose,
Yeah,
commit to it this week, see how it makes you feel, and hey, we want to hear about it.
absolutely.
Share your thoughts, your struggles, your triumphs. Let's keep this conversation going because when it comes to, understanding our brains in this digital world, we're all in this together.
We're all navigating this new terrain together.
Yeah.
And the more we learn and share, the better equipped we'll be to actually thrive in this digital age.
Yeah. Love that. Couldn't I have said it better myself. So until next time, happy scrolling, but do it mindfully.
Yes, mindfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is all about just being more mindful and intentional about how we use this technology.
Absolutely. And I think, one thing that's really cool is that, we're not just talking about the problems here.
Right.
We're actually giving people like real solutions.
Yes, thanks.
Things they can actually do to take control of their social media habits.
It's empowering,
Yeah.
It's not just about feeling helpless or overwhelmed. It's
No.
about understanding the science and using that knowledge to make positive changes.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so valuable.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap things up here is my final question for you and for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
What one small change are you going to make this week to have a healthier relationship with social media?